In early 2025, the Iranian Navy took a significant step by officially commissioning its first aircraft carrier, named the Iris Shahed Begari. This milestone placed Iran among a select group of nations capable of operating these colossal warships and extending their military reach far beyond their own shores. On paper, this seemed like a massive leap forward for Iran's naval capabilities. However, in practical terms, the Shahed Begari falls short of qualifying as a true aircraft carrier and would struggle to withstand even moments in a confrontation with the United States Navy. Several critical factors contribute to this reality. The foremost reason is straightforward. The Shahed Begari was never originally built to serve as an aircraft carrier. Instead, it is a converted container ship. The vessel started its life as the Perrin, a South Korean container ship constructed by HD Hyundai Heavy Industries back in the year 2000. For many years, this ship transported large volumes of cargo across the globe, fulfilling a very different role from the one it serves today. Eventually, the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps decided to transform this merchant ship into a military carrier. Over several years, they meticulously added an angled flight deck, while largely preserving much of the ship's original container ship superstructure. This approach, while resourceful and cost-effective, is a clear departure from how most aircraft carriers are designed and built. Such huge and powerful vessels are typically owned by the world's largest and wealthiest militaries. Countries possessing full-scale aircraft carriers include the United States, China, Russia, the United Kingdom, India, France, and Italy. It is notable that all but Italy rank among the top 10 in global military spending. Other nations such as South Korea, Brazil, Australia, and Turkey operate smaller aircraft carriers and also maintain relatively substantial military budgets. In contrast, Iran's military spending is much more limited, forcing it to find creative ways to build its naval presence, often saving money by cutting corners and challenging traditional design norms. Instead of commissioning an entirely new, custom-built aircraft carrier from scratch, Iran chose to repurpose a container ship as the foundation for the Shahed Begari. This decision saved considerable sums of money in design, development, and production. Yet, it also introduced a host of significant problems. Although both container ships and aircraft carriers are large vessels, their purposes and technical requirements are vastly different. The most advanced aircraft carriers are the products of meticulous design, where every detail is carefully planned and engineered. Each layer, component, and system integrates into the overall structure, producing not just massive ships, but some of the most powerful and technologically advanced naval vessels ever constructed. These carriers boast formidable offensive and defensive abilities matched by state-of-the-art technology. In contrast, the Shahed Begari is a far cry from these standards. In fact, when the first images of the ship surfaced, many naval experts remarked on its resemblance to the HMS Furious, a British Royal Navy aircraft carrier commissioned more than a century ago. This comparison underscored how fundamentally outdated and improvised Iran's carrier appeared. Instead of standing alongside the world's leading aircraft carriers, the Shahed Begari seems more like a makeshift attempt to establish carrier capability rather than a modern warship ready for serious conflict. Let's dive into the history and challenges surrounding the Shahed Begari aircraft carrier. Throughout history, analysts have noted striking parallels between the Shahed Begari and older carriers that were similarly crafted by converting existing ships. Take, for example, the HMS Audacity, a Royal Navy carrier, born from a transformed merchant vessel. There's also another Royal Navy ship that began life as a German merchant vessel, converted into a carrier, but sadly sank just months after entering service. These instances show that transforming such ships into carriers is not unheard of, though success varies. In fact, multiple military forces, including the United States, have employed the method of converting merchant or container vessels into carriers over the years. However, in today's era, the vast majority of aircraft carriers are purpose-built from the keel up. Why is that? Iran's experience offers some clues. While converting a container ship into an aircraft carrier might seem like a cost-effective solution, it presents a host of significant challenges. One of the most formidable is constructing the flight deck and runway. Consider the original container vessel's superstructure. It stretched across the entire width of the ship. To save both time and money, Iran chose to leave this large superstructure intact. But this decision came at a cost. It prevented the construction of a traditional flat-top flight deck design, since there simply wasn't enough unobstructed space. Instead, the designers had to innovate, creating a slightly sloping flight deck paired with an angled runway to carve out enough room for aircraft to take off and land safely. Adding to the complexity, the runway itself measures around 590 feet, or 180 meters, which is notably narrow. This slim margin means that pilots landing on the Shahed Begari face significant difficulties. Even a tiny miscalculation in their approach angle could cause their aircraft to collide with the superstructure, potentially causing severe damage. The result is a vessel that critics often describe as a Frankenstein's monster, an awkward patchwork piece of naval architecture that feels like a makeshift aircraft carrier cobbled together in unique, unconventional ways. This has led to the Shahed Begari becoming somewhat of a meme among military analysts. Many question whether it genuinely qualifies as an aircraft carrier at all. And this skepticism brings us to the second major drawback: the carrier's actual capabilities. Authentic, full-scale aircraft carriers live up to their name by transporting large numbers and a diverse array of aircraft. For example, the United States' largest carriers, such as the USS Gerald Ford, which holds the title of the biggest aircraft carrier and largest warship ever built, can carry more than 75 aircraft at once. These include cutting-edge strike fighters like the F/A-18, Super Hornet, and F-35, Lightning II. Helicopters, including the S-60 Seahawk and C-2 Greyhound. Electronic warfare planes, such as the EA-18, Growler, and airborne early warning aircraft, like the E-2D. In essence, true aircraft carriers are mobile air bases with expansive flight decks, enormous hangars, and long runways designed to accommodate the safe takeoff and landing of many types of aircraft. These ships give their operators the power to deploy entire aerial forces virtually anywhere, enabling the command and execution of large-scale operations far from home shores. By stark contrast, the Iranian Shahed Begari doesn't meet these criteria. It lacks the capacity and the logistical features that define genuine aircraft carriers and functions more as a limited platform rather than the robust naval air power projection tool that established carriers represent. The ship operates in a completely different league. It lacks the size and runway length needed to support landings and takeoffs for most aircraft types, including fighter jets. Consequently, its usefulness is largely limited to carrying helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as UAVs or drones. In fact, footage released by Iranian officials has shown at least 3 types of drones on board, alongside 4 helicopters. Although detailed information remains scarce, analysts suggest that the carrier could transport a variety of fixed-wing drones, such as the Shahed 129, the Gaza, or the Cayman 22. The vessel also appears well-suited for launching vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL drones, as well as medium-altitude, long-endurance models. It might even host jet-powered drones in addition to helicopters equipped for diverse roles and armaments. Experts anticipate that the ship could serve as a platform for long-range kamikaze drone attacks targeting enemy positions. However, it almost certainly cannot accommodate jets, bombers, or conventional electronic warfare aircraft. But this limitation doesn't necessarily undermine its value. A carrier dedicated to drones and helicopters is still a significant asset, especially as drones continue to play an increasingly vital role in modern warfare for the foreseeable future. This reality has driven other countries to explore similarly compact carriers designed for drone deployment worldwide. Take Turkey as an example. In 2023, they commissioned the TCG Anadolu, nicknamed the Beast of the Black Sea. This amphibious assault ship was built to carry large numbers of drones into the open sea, boasting impressive onboard technology and advanced technical specifications. Ships like these unquestionably have their uses, but their capabilities remain limited. Without the ability to host jets and various other aircraft types, Iran's Shahed Begari will never match the operational utility or strategic value of a carrier like the USS Gerald Ford. It won't be able to participate in the complex, large-scale missions that vessels of this size typically engage in, nor will it project the kind of strategic deterrence and power that a genuine carrier, complete with an integrated strike group, commands. Before we delve into the next critical weakness of the Shahed Begari, let me remind you, if this kind of detailed analysis appeals to you, be sure to subscribe to the Military Show. We provide insights like this every week. The third major shortcoming of the Shahed Begari concerns its defensive capabilities. Not only does it fall short in offensive power compared to a true carrier, but it's also considerably less resilient. This isn't to say the vessel is defenseless. Iranian officials have revealed that it comes armed with a variety of missiles. These include 8 cruise anti-ship missiles and 8 multi-purpose Kausar 222 missiles. Additionally, it features a turret armed with a 30 mm automatic cannon. The Shahed Begari, equipped with several onboard Gatling guns, has been reported by the head of the Iranian Navy to feature advanced signals, intelligence capabilities, and passive electromagnetic listening technology. Additionally, it can supposedly deploy remote drone submarines as a means of defense in hostile waters. However, it is important to approach these claims with caution, as Iranian officials have a history of overstating their military advancements without substantial evidence. Despite this skepticism, there is credible information suggesting that the Shahed Begari possesses some offensive capabilities against enemy ships and aircraft. Nevertheless, its defensive systems remain far less sophisticated compared to those of the world's top aircraft carriers. For instance, the Gerald R. Ford class carriers are equipped with multi-layered, specially designed defense mechanisms. These include cutting-edge radar and electronic warfare suites that detect and disrupt nearby threats. The carriers also employ a variety of advanced missile systems, radar-guided, Mk-15 phalanx close-in weapon systems, and multiple high-tech machine gun setups. Moreover, bigger and more advanced carriers like the Gerald Ford can carry a vast complement of fighter jets and electronic attack aircraft. This diverse arsenal provides them with numerous ways to defend themselves, making any attack on such a carrier an almost impossible challenge for adversaries. Beyond weapon systems, modern carriers are typically purpose-built from the keel up and incorporate state-of-the-art armor protection throughout their structure. They also feature redundant and recovery systems designed to maintain combat effectiveness even after sustaining damage. In stark contrast, the Shahed Begari is essentially a converted vessel, lacking these military-grade fortifications, reinforced hull armor, or integrated multi-layer defense networks. Consequently, despite Iran's upgrades, this ship remains far more susceptible to damage and destruction by contemporary anti-ship weapons. Against a formidable force such as the United States Navy, a carrier like the Shahed Begari would be extremely vulnerable, effectively cannon fodder. US forces could potentially execute a saturation missile strike, employing missiles launched from land-based platforms, aircraft, surface ships, and even submarines underwater. Such an overwhelming barrage could saturate the ship's limited defenses, breach its relatively fragile hull, and sink it within minutes. Another significant limitation of the Shahed Begari stems from the broader weakness within the Iranian Navy. Its inability to support a full-fledged carrier strike group. Leading naval powers like the U.S. deploy aircraft carriers as the centerpiece of strike groups that include destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and a host of support vessels. This layered composition offers varied offensive and defensive capabilities essential for protecting the carrier and projecting power. Even smaller navies operating carriers typically assemble accompanying support ships to enhance their effectiveness. Unfortunately, Ireland lacks the necessary naval resources to field such comprehensive carrier groups, further diminishing the operational value of the Shahed Begari in a serious military conflict. To maintain a robust level of multi-layered protection, naval powers typically combine their aircraft carriers with a fleet of other vessels and aircraft. Unfortunately for Iran, there is scant evidence suggesting that the Islamic Republic of Iran Navy can assemble the necessary forces to form such a strike or escort group. 1. The Navy simply lacks the size and capability required for this. It does not possess any true destroyers and only has a limited number of frigates, corvettes, and patrol boats. This significant shortfall in support vessels sharply curtails both the operational flexibility and survivability of the Shahed Begari aircraft carrier. In stark contrast, far more powerful militaries like those of the United States and China routinely dispatch their carriers on long-range missions, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of miles from their home ports. Their confidence stems not only from the extensive onboard defenses these carriers possess, but also from the formidable layers of protection provided by the accompanying fleet, which includes other ships, submarines, and aircraft, forming vast strike groups. This comprehensive shielding allows these nations to project their military power over vast distances effectively. Iran, with its singular substandard carrier and minimal accompanying forces, simply cannot compete on this level. Rather than serving as the centerpiece of a strike group, the Iranian carrier functions more as a support vessel. It would prove largely ineffective if Tehran sought to establish air superiority against an adversary, execute precision deep strike missions, or sustain expeditionary combat operations far beyond its home waters. The fifth major handicap of the Shahed Begari lies in its technical specifications, which lag significantly behind most modern carriers. Consider speed. Many contemporary aircraft carriers can exceed 30 knots, approximately 34.5 miles per hour, as exemplified by the USS Gerald Ford class carriers, which push even beyond that threshold. By comparison, the Shahed Begari tops out at just 22 knots, around 25 miles per hour. This slower speed presents multiple operational problems. Tactically, if the Begari needs to reposition quickly to evade threats or withdraw from hostile waters, its sluggish pace means it will take much longer to maneuver compared to faster carriers. This increases the window for enemy forces to detect, target, and potentially neutralize the vessel. Moreover, its slower movement makes it an easier target for missile and bomber-based attacks. Strategically, the slow speed hampers the carrier's ability long-range deployments rapidly, delaying the launch of military operations. This lag time provides adversaries with critical opportunities to recognize the threat early and strengthen their defenses accordingly. In essence, The Shahed Begari's limited speed severely restricts its capacity to surprise opponents or respond swiftly to emerging situations. But speed is not the only parameter where the Shahed Begari underperforms. Most of today's leading carriers are equipped with cutting-edge radar systems, integrated electronic warfare suites, and sophisticated command and control centers that seamlessly interlink their operations with broader networked forces. These capabilities enable them to function as nerve centers for highly complex military operations. In contrast, the Shahed Begari appears to be markedly deficient in these advanced systems. While it does carry some radar and signals intelligence equipment, these technologies are rudimentary when compared to the considerably more advanced installations found on American, Chinese, and other modern carriers. This technological gap further diminishes the Shahed Begari's operational effectiveness and command capabilities, underscoring the many limitations that constrain Iran's ability to wield true naval power on the high seas. Despite its limitations, the Begari aircraft carrier is far from a worthless asset to the Iranian Navy. Aircraft carriers, even those that are relatively small and basic like this one, are highly valuable military vessels. Only a handful of nations in the world operate them. By successfully building this carrier, Iran has joined an exclusive club, marking a significant achievement in its naval capabilities. Although the Begari might have limited usefulness in high-intensity naval warfare, it still offers a range of strategic benefits for Iran's armed forces. Weighing 41,000 tons and stretching over 780 feet, 240 meters in length, the ship is far from small. Its size and presence alone can intimidate smaller, weaker adversaries and enhance Iran's ability to project power across the Middle East. Iranian officials have stated that the Begari carrier has an operational range of up to 22,000 nautical miles, 41,000 kilometers, allowing it to maintain a presence and conduct operations for up to a year without refueling. While there might be a gap between these claims and the ship's real-world performance, the fact remains that the Begari is a large vessel bristling with firepower. It could be a formidable platform for drone strikes or helicopter assaults against coastal targets. With Iran investing heavily in drone technology, it could develop larger, more advanced drones designed specifically to operate from the Begari. This opens up new possibilities for drone-based operations both near Iranian shores and further afield. In summary, the carrier does hold some tangible value for Iran's military strategy. Yet, it is important not to overlook its many weaknesses. Its offensive and defensive capabilities pale in comparison to the world's top carriers. Even smaller helicopter carriers owned by countries like Japan, France, South Korea, and Australia are more powerful, versatile, and better protected than the Begari. The ship's design contains inherent flaws, and its current and future operational capacity is restricted. Additionally, Iran has very limited experience in maintaining a vessel of this size and complexity, meaning its navy will have to rapidly develop the skills needed to operate and sustain the ship effectively. Major military superpowers like the United States are unlikely to be overly concerned about the Shahed Begari. They will acknowledge the damage it can inflict and the potential threat it poses, but they have little reason to fear it. A single coordinated missile strike or submarine attack could easily sink this enormous ship. If Iran ever attempted to challenge the U.S. Navy with the Begari, it would quickly be overwhelmed by the United States' overwhelming firepower and strategic advantages. Unfortunately for Iran, this assessment extends to its naval forces in general, which are considerably smaller and less capable than the U.S. Navy, and would struggle considerably in any direct conflict with American maritime power. Even the well-organized American carrier strike groups would remain largely unscathed. In essence, if Iran believed that the Begari missile could instill fear in its adversaries, they clearly underestimate who they're up against. To dive deeper, you can watch our hour-by-hour video breakdown that explores how a potential conflict between the U.S. and Iran might unfold. Additionally, check out this compelling video demonstrating how American air superiority obliterated Iran's entire air defense network within minutes during Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025. For more thorough military analyses and the latest breaking news, remember to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications.